Welcome to U.S. Olympic Gold from the campus of the University of Southern California, the site of the Olympic Games, both in 1932 at the Coliseum Pool, where Buster Crabbe emerged as the Golden Star, and 1984 with the likes of Rowdy Gaines and Tracy Calkins, and the first of 6 gold medals won by Matt Biondi. Hello, I'm Craig Sager, and today we bring you U.S. Olympic Gold from a very historic setting, the U.S. Long Course National Championships from the Olympic Pool on the campus of USC. It was here in 1984 where the U.S. swimmers tied an Olympic record by winning 22 gold medals. Sitting at poolside, another USC gold medal winner from before 1984, John Neighbor, who is with Ron Thulin.
Thank you very much, Craig Sager. It has indeed been a very exciting week here in Los Angeles, California. It has been a week of the 3 R's: retirements, records, and remarkable stories. Joining me again for our swim coverage, Olympic gold medal winner and former world record holder John Neighbor. John, we thought some of the young kids would just step forward in this meet, but some of the big story has been of the veterans returning.
Yeah, it's the absence of retirement, I should say. The athletes who did well in Seoul quit, and now they figured, well, they missed it, and they've been coming back. Matt Biondi gave up water polo to rejoin the sport of swimming. Dan Veach, who was buying business suits in Seoul, he gave those up, came back into the pool. Betsy Mitchell quit the sport. She comes back 5 weeks ago of training, and she enters the pool, top qualifier. She wins this event at the Nationals, Queen Backstroke, another year. So they're sticking around and doing a good job until they get beat or get pushed out of the sport.
Exactly that.
The winner.
A great story by Betsy Mitchell. We have also had records, and what is a national championship without records?
In fact, the athletes who didn't quit are those who weren't satisfied with their performance at Seoul. Barrowman lost an event he thought he should have won. He comes here and proves with a new world record in the preliminary heats of the 200 breaststroke. We'll get to see how he does in the finals this evening.
And Dave Wharton, also an American record.
That's right. Dave had the world record in the 400 IM. He lost that to the Olympic gold medalist. In fact, Dave's best medal was a silver medal in Seoul, so he's come back with a vengeance. You see him here winning the 400 IM earlier in the meet with a new American record. So he's back, and he's better than he was last year.
Well, both of those are remarkable stories, but probably the one that stands out is the story of a young lady who most thought would never swim again.
Absolutely. Everyone had high hopes for Beth Barr. She was thrown off a horse, compound fracture. The bone came out of the arm. Doctors thought they'd have to amputate, but no, she hung on. She's back in the sport, training hard, and she's made a championship final here. It's going to be a great story.
It's the women's 50-meter freestyle. 24.98 is the world record. 25.50. Leanne Fetter has the American record, and she is swimming in lane 4.
More from the bottom in the orange cap. Leanne Fetter is the greatest talent in the sprint right now. She's already got half a body length lead. The race isn't even halfway.
Oh, my goodness. She has come out quickly from Louisville, Kentucky in lane 4. She has got the lead as they come into the final 10 minutes. Leanne Fetter and Jill Sturkle running 1 and 2. Let's see how Leanne Fetter can do. She is still in the lead. And in lane 3, it is Julie Cooper. Leanne Fetter touches first in a time of 25.55. Just off the American record by 5/100ths of a second. And finishing second in lane 5, it is Jenny Thompson, the 16-year-old from Dover, New Hampshire. Looking at the race again for Leanne Fetter, as expected, John Neighbor.
She's in the middle of the pool with the orange cap looking very strong. Look how long she's extending her entry. She's not chopping it short at all. The rest of the field seems to be tying up a little bit, but Leanne still has the nice, long, and confident stroke that takes her all the way to the finish. You take a look at the two contenders. Lane 4 is to the right, Leanne Fetter. Lane 5 to the left is her rival, Jenny Thompson. These two are 4 years of age difference. And Leanne Fetter is definitely the experienced one who's been to the Olympics, national NCAA champion. She's got all the skills it takes. We're going to be seeing a lot of Leanne Fetter in the years to come.
As she finished third in the 100-meter free already this week, and she wins the 50-meter free. It is Leanne Fetter winning this afternoon. 25.55 is her time. Jenny Thompson is second, and Allison Bach is third.
U.S. Olympic Gold, a TBS Sports exclusive, is brought to you by Dodge Cars and Trucks. On the street or off the road, it's the new spirit of Dodge. By Budweiser, Beechwood 8 for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Diet Coke, just for the taste of it. The move is on to Diet Coke.
Michael Gross, 156.24 on June 27th, 1986. That is the world's record. For our next event, the men's 200-meter butterfly. Pablo Morales, 157.75 is the American record, and that is almost exactly 5 years old. Lane assignments for the men's 200-meter butterfly. Melvin Monroe Stewart Jr. in lane 4 has really come to the top in the men's 200-meter butterfly. But when you think of butterfly strokes, you think of one man, and Craig Sager is with him now.
Well, thanks, Ron. It's rare to find an athlete who transcends his sport, let alone transcends all of sports, but such it is with Mark Spitz. 7 world records, 7 gold medals in the 72 Olympics, now a spectator at the pool. What brings you out here?
Well, I wanted to see the competition. It's in my own backyard in Los Angeles, and it doesn't happen very often that the outdoor nationals are so close, and I've got a lot of friends in swimming, so it was very convenient just to take a short ride over here.
You're such a versatile swimmer, excellent, of course, at many different strokes and distances. But what about the 200-meter butterfly we're going to see?
Well, I'm surprised that the times aren't as fast as you might expect. I think I would have qualified in lane number 6, which would have qualified me 4th in this up-and-coming finals. My time was 007, 2:00.07, and I think Bart Pippinger in lane number 6 did 2:00.74, so he's 4/100 seconds slower than a time that I did 17 years ago. But, of course, in the finals, I'm sure they're going to improve their time.
But you had nobody to chase you either.
Well, yes, I did. I had the whole world. Everybody was chasing me.
Your son now is 8 years old, I believe, also a swimmer. What do you expect out of him?
Not much right now, simply because he's so much interested in other sports, such as baseball and soccer. He does very well in those sports, and I think there's plenty of time for him to decide what sort of a sportsman he's going to be, whether or not he'll be a soccer player or a baseball player or possibly a swimmer. It's going to be difficult if he chooses swimming for obvious reasons, but I'm behind him whatever he wants to do.
Well, thanks for being with us. Time changes a lot of things, but it's not altered the image we have of you. Mark Spitz, let's go back to Ron Thulin.
As we look at the future for the butterfly stroke in American swimming, it is great to see Mark Spitz. And when you think of Mark Spitz, I think all of us get the memories and the picture of him hanging with the gold medals hanging around his neck.
Mark won 7 events in a single Olympics. I doubt if that'll ever happen again, but I know that Melvin Stewart facing Mark Dean in this event. Melvin's been trying to train for that. Mark Dean, of course, an Olympian in the butterfly. Melvin Stewart, no stranger to this pressure. And David Wharton, who's already set an American record at this meet, swam a fantastic butterfly leg of the IM, so we know he's strong in this stroke. It's going to be an exciting 4 lengths to the pool.
He told us earlier today, Dave Wharton did, that he swims the 200 fly to improve his individual events, and that seems to take a little pressure off him off the IM. We will be keeping our eye on the splits as far as the world and American records go. But in lane 4, it is Melvin Monroe Stewart Jr., 20 years old, from Fort Mill, South Carolina. He said to me, how do you like it? That is a southern name if I've ever heard one. That's what you've got.
Melvin Stewart swimming 4 lanes from the bottom of the screen with the orange cap, reads to his side. And that makes it a little bit interesting.
And it is Mark Dean currently in the lead in lane 5, just above Melvin Stewart. Melvin Stewart is split 26.78, just slightly behind American record pace. That was Mark Dean. Melvin Stewart said that he felt that he overtrained for the Olympics, John, and he felt a lot of pressure coming into the 1988 games.
Well, Melvin certainly is training a lot now as well. In fact, at the recent NCAA championships, he swam 14 swims in a 3-day meet, and I think that's a record. I don't know anybody else who's ever done that. Melvin's got the endurance, he's got the variety. Now he's just got to prove some more speed.
Well, in lane 5, Mark Dean, the 21-year-old from Kansas City, Kansas, 56.73, and that is the American record split. And the crowd at the pool senses that as he makes the turn into the third 50 meters.
You see Melvin breathing to his side. He's looking down here at lane 2. David Wharton, the IMer's got a good butterfly swim going. And Melvin's going to have to start pulling a little bit more snap out of his stroke. His hands are not snapping around to the forward entry quite as well as you would have expected. And Wharton now, I believe, senses he might win this race.
Well, it is Stewart, Dean, and Pippinger in lanes 4, 5, and 6, 127.60, slightly behind American record time, but it is Melvin Stewart in lane 4. As we come to the final length of the men's 200-meter butterfly.
Now Melvin's snapping around a lot better. See how close to the level of the surface of the water he's swimming. Not a lot of wasted undulation. He's got a good snap, good powerful kick. He looks very strong.
Let's see Dave Wharton in lane 2 trying to make a move. He may run out of pool, and he will. And it is Melvin Stewart in lane 4, winning in a time of 1:57.94. Dave Wharton in lane 2 finishes second.
That's the fastest time swum in this event this year by anyone in the world. So he's the world leader at this point. Great swim, and Dave Wharton has to get a lot of credit. 58.53. You see Wharton towards the bottom of the screen. Melvin in the orange cap leading. Melvin looks very long and strong. Wharton looks like he's undulating a little bit more. But it was interesting. A nice head-down swim all the way to the wall for Wharton. Take a look at Stewart again. Orange cap, that's a trademark. Swims for the University of Tennessee. And There's side breathing that lets him keep his head closer to the surface of the water, so he's not swimming uphill and downhill, but rather forward. A nice technique that works for him. Nice smooth recovery. Looks like he's very casually accepting a nice championship swim.
Well, his hero, he said he admires Tom Jager, former world record holder in the 50-meter free, but he is becoming the hero to a lot of young swimmers here today. Melvin Stewart wins it. Dave Wharton finishes second, and Bart Pippinger winds up third in the men's 200-meter butterfly. The name that has become synonymous with the women's 800-meter freestyle, Janet Evans. She holds both the world and American records. In 1988, she set them 8:17.12, and that is who we will be seeing this afternoon in the 800-meter free. Janet Evans will be swimming right in the middle in lane 4, but just to her left will be Julie Cole, a 16-year-old, and Julie Cole has really emerged, John Neighbor, as a young swimmer with a lot of potential and may try to push Janet Evans.
I think she will try to push Janet. Janet, look at her, how poised and confident she is. It wasn't too long ago that she was the young darling in the sport. Now she's the reigning queen. And there's a difference of attitude as she stands on the blocks or bends over and, moistens her mouth or moistens the goggles. She's very calculated, very mature. No question about it. Now, Julie Cole, a little bit younger perhaps, but certainly has the physical skills and the credentials to be a candidate for racing her down. Julie Cole has won the race that's longer than this event at this meet, wins the race that's shorter than this event here at this meet. And so the question is, can she put the average together and race Janet to the wall?
A young Julie Cole says she enjoys swimming against Janet Evans and hopes she can push her. Started swimming when she was about 4 years old because her sister, who now swims at Boston College, got her interested in it.
I think every athlete enjoys swimming against the best of them.
We are set. Women's 800-meter freestyle. Very lazy.
Very slow. Slow start, which is fine. The difference of a start here is not going to be the difference of a place at the end of this race, more than likely. And right away, Janet goes into that patented windmill stroke.
And it's that big stroke that is not exactly textbook, I would have to say.
But look, she's going out for it. Already a body length lead before she gets to the first of 16 lengths of the pool. I'm not going to predict a record here, but she certainly looks like she's going for one.
Well, she went out awfully quickly in lane 4. Janet Evans touches the wall in the lead after the first length. We have more of the women's 800-meter freestyle as U.S. Olympic gold will continue. Stay with us. We'll return to Los Angeles in a moment. Ron Thulin and John Neighbor welcoming you back to Los Angeles, California for the U.S. Swimming National Long Course Championships. And we have 100 meters remaining in the women's 800-meter freestyle, and it is all Janet Evans. And she has opened up an 8-second lead over second place Julie Cole.
She's done it without rivals, all by herself. She's immediately asserted herself in the first 50 and has never let up. Her stroke turnover is patented Janet Evans. She's taking 47 to 48 strokes per 50-meter length, which means she's stroking more efficiently than her body. It's like she's only 5.5 feet in that, and she's taken 6 feet per 2 arm strokes. That's fantastic.
She has picked up at least 1, 2, or 3 seconds each 100 meters, and she will be coasting to yet another title. She has already captured the 1,500 free, the 200 free.
Now, the pool record, 8:24, is the one she might break. That was set at the Olympics in '84 by Tiffany Cohen. 8:24.95 is the record, and she broke it by 2 full seconds.
8:22.11 is the time for Janet Evans as she picks up her 4th national title and her 21st overall in her swimming career. Julie Cole finishes second at 8:36.07. And in lane 8, Stacy Cassidy, the 22-year-old from Evanston, Illinois, finishes third.
Amazing technique Janet Evans had. Watch as her hand enters the water. Now her body will move past that point before that same hand comes out of the water. That's perfect efficiency. She's got the consistency of a metronome. I mean, this lady's got cadence, and it's worked the entire way. She took the same number of strokes for each of 16 lengths. Very disciplined swim. Great job.
And she always knows where she is in the pool and what her lead is. She's very aware of things going on around her.
An intelligent swimmer, without question.
Janet Evans wins at 8:22.11 is the time. Julie Cole finishes second, and Stacy Cassidy is third in the women's 800-meter freestyle. In the preliminaries, 20-year-old Mike Barrowman from Rockville, Maryland, set a new world and American record in the men's 200-meter breaststroke. Quite an accomplishment, 2:12.90. And he is the new world record holder in this event, and he will be swimming this evening in lane 4. Now, setting a world record in the preliminaries is quite an accomplishment, but can he repeat tonight?
I know I can do better than I did this morning. I just, you know, I've done what I wanted to do. I'm satisfied. If you know, if anything happens, it's okay. If I swim terrible, that's fine. You know, I know I can do better. It may not be tonight. It may not be for who knows how long, but I want to do better. Tonight's for me. This morning was for everybody else. You know, I put together the race that I wanted to. I've swum, you know, the race that I wanted for, you know, everybody. I paid back, you know, my coach for the time that he spent with me. Tonight's for me. You know, but like I said, I'm satisfied with what I've done so far, and that's what I came to do.
John Neighbor, the question is, how difficult will it be for Mike Barrowman, who set a new world record earlier today? How's it difficult to come back?
Well, it's definitely hard to improve on a world record because you know you've set a standard that no one in the world has ever done before, and now the concentration is to win the field. Because if he gets third here, if he loses here, it doesn't matter that he owns the record. He still has lost this race. So I looked at him before this race, and he's cool as ice. He's total concentration. He's not pumped. He's not oversight. He's just, he looks ready.
4 lengths of the pool. You want some trivia? The old record was set by Victor Davis 5 years and 1 day ago today. It was in the same pool. He did it in the same area as Barrowman in the preliminaries.
Tell me that's not cool. The guy's tapping his goggles 3 seconds before they send him off on a 4-length swim for a new world record. There's definitely a lot of excitement when a man who's proven he can break a world record this week gets on the blocks again.
He said he was so disappointed in his performance in Seoul in the Olympics that he didn't even look at the tape of his race until April, and after that he realized he had to go out and do something this year.
Well, he's got to keep it cool. The temptation is he knows he's got a world record, and he wants to force his way to a new one. I don't think he's going to do that. He's going to let the field determine the pace for the first lap and a half.
He is right on. In fact, he is ahead of world record pace from the preliminaries, and the crowd here at the USA pool knows that, and they are cheering him on already after the first 50.
Well, he may be ahead of his pace, but there's other people with him, too. So being ahead of pace at the 50 is no great indication. Now, it might be said that being slower at the turn might be wiser for him. He's got a great 450.
Good point. In fact, he said after the preliminary world record, he said that his first 150 he didn't think was all that great, but Nelson Diebel was pushing him during the race. He touches the wall first again in lane 4, Mike Barrowman. 1:05.57.
So he's back behind pace, and I think part of that might be the fact that he's lost his goggles. Remember, he was tapping those goggles on the starting block? I don't see him on his face now. So they probably filled with water, and he shrugged them off somewhere, and that's probably what cost him some time.
Well, he lost his goggles this morning in the preliminaries. He said when he dove into the water, down came the goggles, and he thought, my goodness, this isn't going to be a good swim, and he goes on to set the world record.
Who knows? Maybe he thinks losing goggles is good luck. Threw him off. He's looking strong for the win, but he's not quite at record pace.
His goggles the last 75 meters. There's the time in lane 4, 1:39.96 was his time.
I don't think the victory's in question here. The question now is, can he swim a very, very strong? He's got to be more than a second faster than he was in the preliminaries. And see how close he is to the lane line. That's going to prevent him from getting a wider pull that he might need.
He had an incredible last 50 in the preliminaries when he set the world record. And here he comes now in lane 4, Mike Barrowman. He is being pushed by lane 5, Nelson Diebel, which Diebel did earlier today. It is Barrowman, Diebel. Barrowman touches the wall at a time, 2:14.74. Off the world record he set earlier in the preliminaries, but nevertheless, Mike Barrowman, the new world record holder in the men's 200-meter breaststroke, wins this evening in the national title.
Now take a look at him. He's leading right now in the center of the pool, and he's beginning to lose some time here because the field's gaining on him, and I think it's because he tried to overcompensate for the loss of goggles early in the race. At about 75 meters, halfway back to second length, he lost the goggles. It's a distraction. It cost him a full second on that 50, and that's the exact margin. He is slower coming in the finals. So he's a full second faster in the preliminaries, and that entire second was due to the lost goggles.
And you can see he's trying to look over to the side, too, as he's breathing. You can see his eyes wide open, and like you said, John Aber, it was definitely a distraction for Mike Barrowman, but not enough to cost him a victory, because that is exactly what he did. He wins the men's 200-meter breaststroke this evening. Nelson Diebel is second. the 18-year-old from Hightstown, New Jersey. He said this morning he had a bad swim, but he has worked extremely hard this summer for these national championships. And John Neighbor is with a very tired Mike Barrowman right now, who's still in the pool.
Mike, congratulations on the victory. Disappointment with the time. What happened with your goggles?
I don't know. It's getting to be a common occurrence with me now. Every time I dive in, the things fill up, and I can't see anymore. This time it got to both of them, and I had to tear them off at the wall and couldn't see anything after that. But it's all right. I could see in the morning, and that's all that mattered to me.
Was there added pressure since you've already broken the world record to do it again?
No, it was less. You know, I came in here, and I wanted to break it, and doing it in the morning relieved all the pressure from me. So I would have liked to have gone a lot faster tonight, and I felt I could have. But, you know, things happen. It's all right with me. I'm happy. I can't complain.
Congratulations anyway.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John Neighbor. He is indeed a very happy young man who said he's excited about the publicity that he'll receive for being the world record holder. Mike Barrowman wins at 2:14.74 is his time. Nelson Diebel is second. And Kirk Stockel winds up third in the men's 200-meter breaststroke. Let's go back to our host, Craig Sager, who's with the national team director, Dennis Persley.
Thanks, Ron. The year after the Olympics, traditionally a time for changes, not only in athletes, but also in philosophies. Swimming has undergone many of them. Dennis, what are they and why?
Well, we're looking at some dramatic changes over the next 4 years from what we've been doing in the past. One of them is that we intend to select our team 5 months prior to the Olympics rather than the traditional 4 or 5 weeks. We're looking at establishing a competitive schedule 2 years prior to the Olympics that will allow the swimmers to focus on getting the training background in rather than having to back off and peak and taper and qualify on a regular basis for the major events, and doing some things like this to make it easier for them to be at their best in Barcelona in '92.
We've also seen one record already by Mike Barrowman. Is that indicative of the results you expect?
Well, I think that record is indicative of the incredible hard work that Mike does, and that's what pleases me most about the meet this week is that most of the outstanding performances are being turned in by swimmers who are making a total commitment, and he's the perfect example. And if we can establish that, the work ethic as being the key to success in international competition, then I think we will have done what we need to do.
Well, thank you, Dennis. We wish you continued success, and we look forward to our continuing coverage of the best swimmers in the world on U.S. Olympic Gold. The top 2 finishers in this meet qualify for the Alamo Cup, a dual meet between the United States and the Soviet Union, which will be held at Emory University and televised on U.S. Olympic pool on the campus of the University of Southern California. A year ago, Beth Barr, then 16, made the Olympic team in both backstroke events. She returned from Seoul with a silver medal in the medley relay. But in May, Beth had the misfortune of being thrown from a horse. She suffered a severe multiple compound fracture of the right arm. There was little chance she would ever swim competitively again. But with adversity comes strength. Beth is back in the water, and although limited in movement, there are no boundaries in what she hopes to accomplish.
Well, I knew I wouldn't swim for a while, but I didn't think I'd be in the hospital for a month because I didn't see my bone because it was laying flat, and I didn't see that. So I didn't think it was as serious as it was. You know, but I knew I wouldn't swim for a couple weeks, but I had no idea it would be as bad as it was. The whole experience was almost like a daze or a dream. You know, I don't remember the first 2 weeks at all, but I remember the second 2. And I was still in that daze when they were thinking about amputating. So lots of things that they said didn't really register, you know, and then after a while it's like, oh my gosh, you know, I may lose my arm. And but after it got past that stage, I knew if I had pulled through that, I could pull through anything, and I knew I'd swim again.
I think an injury serious like that is definitely going to change somebody, and I think being in the hospital and being away from swimming like she was, I think has made her more determined than what she was before, and realized how much she wants to accomplish certain goals that she set for herself that she hasn't reached yet.
Every once in a while I start feeling sorry for myself, you know, and be like, oh gosh, you know, I'll never swim again, you know, start crying and get really upset, which I think everybody who goes through a tragedy, you go through that kind of stuff. And but in every trouble there's a blessing, and I had to look for the positive things instead of the negative.
And there is Beth Barr, 17 years old, swimming for the Mission Bay Makos out of Pensacola, Florida. And she is a girl that has been on an emotional roller coaster this entire week, John. I think that's something we have to talk about, that she's disappointed, but then she's elated. She's disappointed and elated.
Well, she's a champion. She's proven she can make an Olympic team, and yet now she's having to reclimb that hill. She's going to be swimming in lane 1 at the bottom of our screen, and we'll certainly keep an eye on her, but we cannot say we can expect her to win because of the handicap she's had to overcome. The main competition will come from the center lanes. Those are the top qualifiers. Lee Lovelace and Kristen Linehan both have a little bit of an Olympic connection. Lee Lovelace trains at the same club where Rick Carey swims, and he was, of course, the 1984 gold medalist. Top qualifier, Lee Lovelace, at 18, lives in Crestwood, New York. Lane 1, of course, Beth Barr on the bottom of your screen.
Lee Lovelace will be a freshman at Florida. Kristen Linehan in lane 5 will be a sophomore at Florida. A couple of teammates, or future teammates at least.
You know what I like about watching Beth Barr? We don't expect her to win, but she's not willing to just sort of give up the race. She's going to give it her best shot, and that's nice to watch.
Well, she told me just about an hour ago, she was talking about that she is loose, and she said, listen, I'm just going to come out and have fun and try to swim. I'm not going to embarrass myself, but I'm going to go out and try. So we will keep our eye on Beth Barr swimming in lane 1, and right now it is Lee Lovelace in lane 4 with the lead as they're about to complete the first 50 meters of the women's 200-meter backstroke.
Lee looks very strong. She's keeping her head nice and still, and look at that rotation in the arm. She's getting a full length, and there's a nice little whitewater motorboat behind her feet. Very comfortable position. Now remember, she's swimming away from the sun now, and the glare might have a cause to prevent her from seeing the backstroke flags just before the turn. So you're looking at lane 4, our leader, Lee Lovelace, looking very, very good. And there on the bottom of the screen is Beth Barr in the blue cap. And she's not doing anything to disappoint her fans.
Exactly right. But in lane 4, it is Lee Lovelace. In lane 5, it is Kristen Linehan. And in lane 2, it is Janie Wagstaff. It is a close race at the end of 100 meters.
Janie, currently in second, is 2 years younger than the next youngest person in this heat. There's definitely a future in the sport for her.
Beth Barr is keeping pace. She has to feel quite confident at this point.
Well, it's difficult for her because of the splint and the pins in her arm. She cannot turn on that arm. So she's got to pace and time her strokes to land on the wall on the other arm. That's one more complication that sort of makes it harder to compete.
She said it's going to make her nervous touching the wall.
Well, perhaps so, but in fact, they've got plenty to worry about just making the turn. And we see Kristen Linehan, who's very good in the distance backstrokes, beginning to close in now. Kristen Linehan is the sister of Olympian from 1984 and 1980.
And it is still Lee Lovelace and Janie Wagstaff in lane 2 making a play for the lead. But it is Lovelace in lane 4 with the lead so far.
Look at that head control. The head doesn't bob. Here comes Linehan. You see her now fighting for the lead. This is going to be a thriller right to the finish.
It's going to come down to the last 15 meters, and they're within 10 right now. And in lane 4, it's lane 5. Kristen Linehan has taken over the lead in lane 5. Can she touch first? Yes, Kristen Linehan, 2:14.01. In second place in lane 7, Dee Trimble, an 18-year-old from Short Hills, New Jersey. And finishing third in lane 4, the leader for most of the race, Lee Lovelace.
And we got to note that Beth Barr in the lower right-hand corner didn't get last. She got 5th. Good job for Beth. Kristen Linehan just now eking into the lead, and she seems to be accelerating. There towards the top of the screen is Dee Trimble, who will sneak in for the silver, and Lee Lovelace, who led much of the time, has to settle for third. Let's take a look at the stroke as we compare. On the left, that's Kristen Linehan. On the right, Lee Lovelace. And look how steady their head is. And in fact, once you get the lead, you can then see your competition. And if you lose the lead, they disappear from sight. And that has a psychological factor. Kristen Linehan looked very, very strong there. She was obviously disappointed about not making the Olympics the year before. This is Kristen Linehan looking like she deserved to win this victory for herself.
Well, Linehan won the 100 and 200-yard back at the NCAA, and there is Beth Barr. And right now, I think as far as her comeback trail, she has taken a major step. Not only physically, but I think from a mental standpoint, John.
Rightfully so. I think that she may be disappointed with the 5th place, but that's not as far as she's going to go in this sport. She'll be back.
A Tiger was very pleased, Beth Barr. As we look at the final results, Kristen Linehan, 2:14.01 is her time. Dee Trimble does finish second, and Lee Lovelace is third in the women's 200-meter backstroke. More swimming from the campus of Southern California coming up on U.S. Olympic Gold in a moment.
6-time Olympic gold medalist Matt Biondi for the 1990 Goodwill Games.
The competition is probably most conducive to setting world records and having the best competition possible.
The 1990 Goodwill Games, uniting the world's best in a winning tradition.
It is an 8-year-old record. It is held by Uta Gavinegar, 2:11.73, set July 4th, 1981, for the women's 200-meter individual medley. The American record, Tracy Calkins set it back in 1984, 2:12.64. The field, it is a young one. In fact, there is only one of the swimmers out of her teens, and that is Jill Johnson in lane 1. But the two names that catch our eye, actually the three names in lane 3, 4, and 5, Mary Ellen Blanchard, just 16, Janet Evans, 17, and Summer Sanders, 16-year-old in lane 5.
Janet, at 17 years old, is somewhat middle-aged when it comes to women's swimming in this distance. This is the shortest race she has ever swum in nationals. She's never swum anything shorter than a 400 before. At the indoor nationals, she was going to try to do the 200, but she had an unfortunate scratch. Mary Ellen Blanchard, on the other hand, is doing very well in the IMs and breaststrokes. And indeed, it's going to be an exciting race between the two of them. But Summer Sanders is one you've got to watch. From Capital Swim Team, Capital City Aquatics. She is a real tough IM swimmer. It's interesting to see two 16-year-olds and a 17-year-old being the core. Mary Ellen Blanchard, of course, top-notch in the breaststroke. That'll be the third stroke we'll see today. But Janet Evans, the woman everyone's trying to beat. No longer the young darling. She's now the established reigning queen.
As you see, lane 1 at the bottom of your screen, lane 8 at the top.
200-meter individual medley. Take your mark.
And it is a clean start.
A little bit sluggish off the blocks for Janet, but I don't think that's going to make a difference. She's a very tough competitor. We could see the way she was concentrating at the start of the race. Janet Evans in the blue cap in the middle of the pool. Lane 4 starting from the bottom.
Summer Sanders in lane 5 is our early leader, and it is very important, I would think, with Summer Sanders, her weakest leg being the freestyle, that she needs to get some type of advantage early on here, Doug.
That's correct. Summer's very strong, though. I think Mary Ellen's the one who's got to worry about the freestyle leg.
In the preliminaries, Mary Ellen made up a great deal of time on the breaststroke, which, of course, is her strong point, 29:10, and that is ahead of the American record time. But she needs to also go out here because Janet Evans is just so strong on freestyle.
Summer Sanders, full of enthusiasm, established as a good distance IMer. She's now trying to do equally well in the short one. And up there, Janelle Jorgensen, you see her leading it towards the top of the screen. She was the Olympian in butterfly, so it's no surprise she's leading at the end of the fly and into the back.
Exactly that, as we're finishing up the halfway point, the first 100 meters, and in lane 7, it is Janelle Jorgensen, just 18 from Ridgeville, Connecticut. Will be a freshman this fall at Stanford, 1:03.64, slightly off American record pace.
Now, Janet Evans came into the lead on the strength of that turn. She charged into the wall when Summer Sanders was loping into the turn.
And in lanes 4 and 5, Janet Evans and Summer Sanders. Summer Sanders with a slight lead.
It's going to be an exciting finish. You know Janet Evans has endurance. You know she's got the distance background. She's also good in freestyle, so can she run down young Summer Sanders in the freestyle? Here comes Mary Ellen, the breaststroker, and the white cap towards the bottom, now moving into a close second.
And as they make the turn, it is Mary Ellen Blanchard, Janet Evans, and Summer Sanders as we come to the final 50 meters of the women's 200 IM.
It's the patented windmill stroke of Janet Evans. Look at this. It's like someone turned on the motorboat. Here comes little Evinrude. Boy, she's turning it on.
She has the high windmill stroke, and she is really churning up the water. Janet Evans in lane 4. Summer Sanders in lane 5 trying to keep pace. But Janet Evans, the 17-year-old from Placentia, just too much this evening. And she touches the pad first at a time of 2:15.15. Janet Evans, the national champion in the women's 200-meter individual medley. For Janet Evans, 2:15.15 is her time. Summer Sanders a close second. And Mary Ellen Blanchard finishes third. Our coverage of swimming from Los Angeles, California continues on U.S. Olympic Gold in a moment. And we welcome you back to the 1989 U.S. Swimming Long Course Championships from the pool on the campus of Southern Cal. Coming up, our featured race of the afternoon, the 50-meter freestyle featuring Matt Biondi and Tom Jager. But first, let's go back in history, 25 years. 1964, the Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. A young 18-year-old by the name of Don Scholander became the fastest man in the water. Born in North Carolina, raised in Oregon, Scholander became the first swimmer to win 4 gold medals at one Olympics. Don Scholander in 1964, the fastest man in the water. Scholander was the name 25 years ago, and that man is the name now. Matt Biondi holds both the world and American records. The fastest man in the pool now at 22:14 was his time in 1988. And it is an excellent field. We have 3 swimmers in lanes 3, 4, and 5 that we'll keep our eye on.
They were within 3/100ths of a second of each other in the preliminaries. Matt Biondi in 3 was defeated by Steve Crocker in 5 in the preliminary heats. So Matt's not favored to win this race. It's going to be exciting. And Tom Jager, ever present, always fast.
He set a pool record in his heat. Tom Jager, 24 years old from Albuquerque, former world record holder. What battles between Biondi and Jager?
Indeed, they have got one of the greatest rivalries in the field of swimming. Jager, the intense guy, is like Ansi. Here's Steve Crocker's wearing, who is it, the fastest man in the world shirt, because he's got something to prove, and no one knows his name, but they'll know him now because he's beaten Biondi.
He's the older of the 3, 26 years old from Little Rock, Arkansas, but there is Matt Biondi, 23 years old, tried his stint at water polo.
And indeed, that's a factor here. He's not been training for the sport of swimming for much longer than a couple of months, and although he's a little bit more rested than the field, he's got to get back into the swing of the sport.
Now, we saw him at Santa Clara just last week on U.S. Olympic gold. Jager looked like he slipped at the blocks. He said, in fact, he thought it might be a false start. Biondi was able to win in a pretty decent time.
Biondi wearing a beard at the time. He's now clipped and stripped and ready to go. Everyone's fully shaved and tapered. Lane 1 at the bottom. Biondi is 3. He's not yet on his blocks. Swinging his arms is Tom Jager, top qualifier, and the far side's Crocker. So a last-minute adjustment to the goggles.
That's right. Biondi had a beard yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it is all shaved off, and we are ready. Our featured event, the men's 50-meter freestyle.
One leg. Starts really clear.
50-meter race, everything is in full.
Uh-oh. Now that's going to really change here. In the rules in U.S. swimming, if you get caught for a false start, you are disqualified. You don't get a second chance, and it looks like Steve Crocker, the man who beat Biondi in the heats, might be ousted because he started moving before the gun.
It's either he or Todd Pace in lane 6. It wasn't quite sure who exactly moved on this. You were talking to the officials before, John. They were about that. You know, is somebody going to try to get that little edge?
Well, you can certainly expect that when hundredths of a second separate first from fourth. So these athletes are all wondering, is it me? Is it me? Who's the official coming over to talk to?
The crowd surrounding the pool.
They don't want to see anybody ousted. No. They want to see 8 people swimming this length. And the tension is really tangible here. You can feel it.
Oh, the people are all just, their eyes are just glued, of course, on Biondi, Jager, and Crocker. They want to make sure the top 3. Lane 4.
Tom Jager?
Tom Jager? Oh, my goodness.
This will really complicate matters now.
If it is Jager in lane 4, there is an upset before the race begins, which might be a first.
Oh, boy, you can almost read his lips. He doesn't even believe it. He doesn't even believe it, and frankly, neither do I, because I don't think he was the guy moving.
Let's take a look at it again. Let's you be the judge.
Watch closely. Jager's in lane 4 in the yellow cap. 4 counting from the right. The official says take your marks, and they have to come to a complete stop. And now the audience, they're just booing and hissing, but first to touch the water was lane 5. Crocker was the first to hit the water, and Jager can't believe it. He thinks something's amiss here. And here's his coach, Jay Fitzgerald from Santa Clara Swim Club. He's arguing, and
with Russ White of Houston, Texas.
There's definitely a dispute going on here.
Well, the coaches are going to argue, obviously, about this.
And this is a national title on the line.
But isn't it more than that, John? I mean, it's a national title that means a lot, a great deal, a trip to Japan, the whole bit. But doesn't it mean a little bit of pride factor here between these two?
Well, it does take all the wind out of the sails of the great rivalry. The stadium now, everyone in the room, they're starting to chant something that I can't repeat on the air.
Well, some of them are saying, let them swim, and the rest, use your imagination.
Would we please begin the event? Would we please quiet down so we can begin the event? Thank you very much.
They're going to begin the event. You listen to the crowd.
He's very angry. And I think rightfully so. I don't think he was the guy who was moving. And so now the race is going to be Biondi against Crocker. Let's take a look at the start here. 4 from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the yellow cap. Was he the guy moving? No. It was Crocker without the cap.
No.
He was the guy who started the movement. Jaeger was just stuck to the block, so this is going to be an interesting controversy. Now, you know, the officials, unlike football, they don't use replays to make their calls.
Exactly right.
And it's a very, very difficult thing to do.
You hate to take the human element out of it, but in this case, you'd almost want it in. Let them look at it. Let's make the right call. Let's not take this away from this young man. Let's see if we can get a clean start. What does this do mentally to the swimmers? We'll find out.
Now, Crocker got the advantage on that side. People were rocking backwards, and Crocker got just a tenth of a second jump, but Biondi's looking strong, tying up a little bit. He's got a much shorter stroke than we're used to.
It is Crocker in lane 5. Biondi trying to make his move now in lane 3. The last 10 meters. Here they come. Biondi just by a stroke. Can he hold on? It is Biondi and Crocker touching first. Matt Biondi, 22:36.
And it was the strength of his long stretch coming into the finish, and look at that smile. One has to wonder what satisfaction that is.
As we look at the replay again, Crocker came out early on, but look at Biondi. Nice and smooth stroke. He wasn't quite that smooth this morning early on. He touches the wall. Crocker does finish second. In lane 5, 22:47 was his time. Let's take a look at Matt Biondi's stroke again. That patented Matt Biondi stroke that led him to the gold medals in Seoul in 1988. Very smooth, straightforward, coming to the wall, and touches and wins the men's 50 free. John Neighbor is with Matt Biondi now.
Matt, congratulations. A victory for a guy who's just come back into the sport. There's got to be some mixed emotions, though.
Well, of course, you know, the reason why we're all out here is because we want to compete against the best. And to lose Tom in the 50 kind of takes away something from the victory. I know that Tom is as good or better than I am on any day. And, you know, of course, the field was filled with a lot of competition, but we like to have everybody there. And I don't know what happened with the start. I didn't see it. I sure would have liked to have Tom in there.
Now, the rest of the field was also in the race, so Crocker was with you until about 1 meter to go. Hey, you've got to feel good about this finish.
Sure I do. Anytime you win, it's a plus, and to come back from a short season of water polo and have 6 weeks training for swimming, you know, I feel great. A national champion, and that's something to be proud of.
Well, certainly the rivalry will continue.
I sure hope so.
Good job. Let's go now to Tom Jaeger, who's at the other end of the pool with our own Craig Sager.
Well, Tom, Matt said it was a hollow victory because you were not there. What actually happened? Did you leave the blocks first?
Well, I don't think I left the blocks first. I guess they may have made a decision off of my hands moving or something. I don't really know. I've been swimming for 20 years. I think this is the second time ever I've been disqualified for a false start. Probably the last time when I was 12 years old. I don't know. I think they may want to read the rule book, and they may want to look at some pictures, and they may want to practice starting the field in that intense of a race.
Well, let's look at the pictures of the race. The officials, of course, did not have the advantage of replay. We do. Here it is.
Well, we both came down, and my hips go in position, as you can see, and then they come to a complete stop, and that's when the gun fires. As you can see, I was the last one off the block, which isn't very good for me. But, you know, the hips go into position, and then you're ready for the gun to go. And as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what happened. I don't know what they saw. From this angle, it looked like a clean start.
Well, thanks, Tom. Now let's go back to Ron Thulin.
In the shroud of controversy, Matt Biondi wins it. 22:36 is his time. Steve Crocker is second, and young Brett Lang is third in the men's 50 free.
U.S. Olympic Gold, a TBS Sports exclusive, has been brought to you by Dodge Cars and Trucks. On the street or off the road, it's the new spirit of Dodge. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Diet Coke, just for the taste of it. The move is on to Diet Coke.